Good evening, friends. The time is now 6 p.m. Today's date is March 16th, 2016. And before we get started here this evening, I just want to do something a little different here. At this time, there's a former commissioner lying in repose in the district that he represented, Mr. Randy Hatch. And I feel like we do this on a voluntary basis. We throw our hat in the ring, and the electorate elects us to do this job. We served this county for 8 years, and so I feel that it's only right that we recognize him this time with a moment of silence, and then I'll lead us in the place of the flag. So please rise. Thank you. I'll do some. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, if you would like to speak during the comments and concerns section of our agenda this evening, there are comments cards in the foyer area. Please fill one of those out and bring them up to me, and during that time in the agenda, we will consider that. Also, please silence your cell phones out of respect. Board members, please turn off your vibration due to the microphones. All right, moving into our agenda this evening, item number 1, approval of meeting minutes from March 1st, 2016, the regular board meeting. Gentlemen, are there any changes or corrections that you'd like to see in these minutes? Hearing none, I just need a motion for approval.
Motion approved.
A second.
Motion to approve made by Commissioner Fleming, seconded by Commissioner Sessions. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Now moving into the consent area of our agenda, items 2 through 21. Are there any items that any commissioner would like pulled for individual consideration?
I had and I'm sorry I didn't, I visited with Randy this morning, but I forgot to ask about this. I'd like to ask about the piggyback on with the school board for the roof repair at the courthouse.
What number is that, Commissioner?
Number 5.
All right, we'll pull number 5. Are there any others? Hearing none, I need a motion for approval for items 2 through 4 and 6 through 21.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Gamble, seconded by Commissioner Fleming. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Item number 5, approval of roof repair proposal for Suwannee County Courthouse, piggyback on the Suwannee County School Board contract with O'Neill Construction Company. We'll just go ahead and turn the floor over to Mr. Randy Harris.
We had some significant unanticipated leaks on.
Well, I know it was only like $37,000, but it was just.
This piggyback is actually an extension of a piggyback that we did earlier when we did this with the jail. Same company, same unit costs and everything else, and they've looked at it. So
What part of the building was it?
significant flat area behind the
It's on the
courthouse,
on
and
the
then there's a
backside.
couple of flat portions on the front as well.
Okay. I know it wasn't big money. I wasn't aware. I forgot to ask about it.
Good. Do you want to make a motion to approve that?
Sure. I'll move approval, please.
Motion made by Commissioner Wainwright. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second made by Commissioner Gamble. And again, just to clarify, that's item number 5 on the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, moving on to commissioner items. I had none requested to be placed on the agenda. If there's any commissioners' items that anyone would like to add, I'll entertain those at this time.
Jason, there's just, pardon me, Chairman.
It's okay. It's me.
She's calling me by name. I think one thing we need to do is just read the resolution number 7.
Okay.
Read into the minutes about the railroad coming through town.
Okay.
We can do that.
Sure. The resolution is, we don't have an established number. It'd be in 2016, but a resolution of the Suwannee County Board of County Commissioners, Suwannee County, Florida, in support of restoring passenger rail service from New Orleans to Jacksonville and establishing a stop in Live Oak, Florida, providing for an effective date. Whereas Amtrak ridership and revenues have continued to see strong growth in fiscal year 2014 and steady figures for fiscal year 2015 with nearly 31 million riders each year, and whereas Amtrak news releases dated 10/27/2014 and 12/2/2015 both emphasize that new investment in rail infrastructure is critical for future growth of passenger rail to meet passenger demand, and whereas both Jacksonville and New Orleans Amtrak stations are viable and successful transportation hubs with 77,553 and 196,768 respective riders in 2014, and whereas before Hurricane Katrina, Amtrak's Sunset Limited passenger line served railroad travelers as the only transcontinental passenger rail service from Los Angeles passing through New Orleans and Mobile to Jacksonville, and whereas Hurricane Katrina damaged a portion of the rail infrastructure along the Gulf Coast as well as causing the loss of other portions of the infrastructure, and whereas Amtrak suspended all service on the eastern portion of the Sunset Limited service from New Orleans through Mobile, Tallahassee, and Jacksonville, and whereas Amtrak has yet to restore this vital transportation link, and whereas CSX and Norfolk Southern, the freight railroad companies that own the tracks on which passenger rail service on the Gulf Coast will operate, have all committed to cooperating with Amtrak in its providing this vital service along the eastern Gulf Coast, and to do so in a more efficient manner than prior to Hurricane Katrina. And whereas the population growth along the Gulf Coast is projected to continue, therefore, restoration of passenger rail service to the eastern Gulf Coast will create jobs, facilitate job creation through development opportunities and alternative transportation options for commuters, enhance tourism, reduce environmental impacts due to personal automobile use, reduce roadway impacts due to personal vehicular use, thereby having a positive economic and environmental impact to all coastal states, Louisiana, Missouri, Alabama, and Florida. And whereas such resumption of passenger rail service will also benefit the entire nation by providing a link to the Gulf Coast from the Midwest and West Coast, and whereas the Passenger Rail Investment and Improvement Act, Amtrak's enabling legislation, which was passed by the United States Congress in 2008, called for Amtrak to study the potential return of passenger rail service from New Orleans to Jacksonville, Orlando, and whereas the undersigned, in conjunction with vast local community support, have commonly agreed upon the need for a daily, reliable, quality passenger rail service with an appropriate operating schedule between New Orleans to Jacksonville, and whereas the undersigned agree that a base level daily service that meets regional needs and can serve as a building block for additional long distance or corridor type service to meet regional and national transportation needs will stimulate economic development, including facilitating, promoting, and supporting local businesses, community events, festivals, and concerts, local historic and ecotourism opportunities. And whereas the city of Live Oak, Florida in Suwannee County owes its very existence and namesake as a city born out of the railroad expansion in the 1800s and is stopped here by a large live oak tree, and henceforth the railroad has been the backbone of the community, providing sustained opportunities for growth and commerce. And whereas the city of Live Oak is geographically the obvious choice for a mid-level transportation hub between Tallahassee and Jacksonville, served by 2 interstate highways, 3 state highways, and regional airports, and whereas the city of Live Oak City Council and Live Oak Community Redevelopment Agency and Suwannee County Economic Development Office has made a commitment to the revitalization of the downtown, which would be a viable and appropriate location for an Amtrak passenger station. And whereas there is an overwhelmingly strong support by the Suwannee County residents, citizens, business community, governmental staff, appointed and elected officials for not only the reestablishment of Amtrak service along this important transportation corridor, but for the establishment of a station stop in the heart of downtown Live Oak. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Suwannee County Board of County Commissioners, Suwannee County, Florida, as follows. Section 1. The recitals and findings contained in the preamble to this resolution are adopted by reference and incorporated as if fully set forth in this section. Section 2. The Suwannee County Board of County Commissioners, Suwannee County, on behalf of the community and all stakeholders, does hereby call for the return of the vital passenger rail service along the Gulf Coast from New Orleans to Jacksonville with a dedicated stop to downtown Live Oak, Florida. Section 3. The Suwannee County Board of County Commissioners, County, further commits to coordinate in the coming weeks and months to provide a detailed list of actions their respective community has taken to facilitate restoration of train service along the Gulf Coast and to reconvene thereafter to consider the next step to accomplish this goal. Section 4, effective date. This resolution shall become effective immediately upon adoption and approval and signature of the chairman. Sound good?
Thank you.
You're very welcome. We have the city council president here. Mr. Keith, do you want to say anything to the board while you're here?
Hey, I'm Keith Mixon, City Council President, City of Live Oak. Mr. Chairman, Board, thank you for the opportunity for just a few moments. There's a lot of cliches we could talk about tonight in describing this possibility. Game changer is the first one that comes to mind in many situations as far as economic development, quality of life, transportation, and it goes on. It's a very fine resolution that I heard right now, and I applaud your commitment and your effort to join an effort. This is going to be a community-wide effort. Without it, it will not happen. One of the greatest obstacles we face right now is being certain that Congress will fund this effort. And that's going to take a lot of phone calls, letters, knocking on legislators' door in Florida. We've got to impress upon them the sincerity of this community in North Florida to make this a possibility, to make it happen. Our Florida legislature and our governor is somewhat lukewarm on the whole effort. And that's not casting dispersions or criticism, but it is something that we must get their attention on to show this is vitally important to this city and this community, this county. So your effort is applauded. Thank you for it. We've got Mr. Sessions sitting at the table with us on the committee. We're discussing this with Amtrak on a weekly basis, and I will tell you this. Possibility is good for Live Oak. In my conversations with Amtrak, the possibility is great. There are no guarantees until this is then we're in the third month of a 9-month feasibility study at this point. So we've got 6 more months with that to happen. The funding is an issue. The Florida legislature needs to come on board. Our community has to be Live Oak and Suwannee County supports Amtrak. If we do all those things, we'll make it. And someone told me this afternoon, with that close to the corner of turning that corner and making things, and it's low-hanging fruit, if you want another cliche. It is probably the quickest, most able to apprehend that we've got in front of us. I won't go back how many years ago it was, but back in my younger days, I remember the rail cars and the passenger cars coming through this town and the viability offered to our community then. And your resolution, Chairman, hit everything, every point in there. Well written. Thank you. So this is important. We appreciate you. We need you.
Thank you, Mr. Mixon, very
Thank you.
much. Thank you for stopping by. All right. Moving right along, county attorney items. Mr. Pravat, do you have anything that you want to discuss with us here this evening?
Nothing that won't be covered under another item.
Okay. Moving on to general business, item number 22, discuss with possible board action a request from Suwannee County Airport to fill a vacancy prior to the retirement of the current facility administrator. We're going to turn our attention this time to Greg Scott, Parks and Recreation Director, as well as Airport Manager and Coliseum Manager, and what other things do you manage, Mr. Scott?
Just stuff. As y'all are probably aware, Dana, our Brendel, our airport facility manager, he's out there every day, is going to retire May 6th. We really need to get somebody on board so they can work side by side with him to learn some of the FAA regulations and inspection protocols and such. He's an aviation person, and I am not. I do my best to manage and leave it at that, but we need to have somebody alongside with Dana for 3-4 weeks whenever we can get that person on board. So that's the wishes of no budget impact, as it is should say in your executive summary. We've got room there because of the vacancies, so I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
They got to have that field of aviation.
It would be helpful.
It'd be helpful, yeah.
I've tried to learn it without an aviation background, and maybe I'm just slow.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Scott?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Wainwright, seconded by Commissioner Gamble. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Thank you very much, and don't forget about the fly-in on the 26th.
26. Thank you, Mr. Scott, very much. Moving on to item number 23, discuss with possible board action any items related to the State's Attorney's Office if necessary, and I think we do have some necessary items to discuss. We'll turn our attention to Randy Harris, or if you want to...
Chairman, if we could start with Mr. Pravat, and then I'll follow up with another item.
Okay, Mr. Pravat?
All right, thank you. I'd like to bring to your attention that at the last board meeting, the board authorized the county administrator and the county attorney to negotiate with the Schneider family with regard to the Mizell property. It's actually owned by the Snyder Trust. The property was appraised at $185,000. Mr. Harris and I have been able to negotiate a price with them of $225,000. The price is above the appraised price, but it's in line with percentage-wise of what we did with regard to the Robinson property. And at this particular point, Mr. Harris and I are recommending that we enter into an option to purchase the property for $225,000. If y'all so desire to do such, there would be two things that I would ask you to do. First would be to approve and accept the option to purchase. And then, as a second motion, would be to execute on the option to purchase and go ahead and approve the closing, the purchase and the sale of the property.
Okay. Are there any questions regarding this for Mr. Pravat or Mr. Harris? Hearing none, there are two items that we have to approve with this or take board action on as stated by the attorney. Do I hear a motion to do so?
I'll make a motion to acceptance and approval of the option to purchase Mizell's property.
Motion made by Commissioner Gamble. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Sessions. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Now, the second item is to execute any documents.
No, what they call it is that once you have an option, then you execute the option.
Okay. All right.
So I would ask that you now execute the option and authorize the purchase and proceed to closing.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Gamble. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Fleming. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Pravat.
That's all I have on that item.
Mr. Harris, do you have anything further?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I've gone ahead and spoken with Cross Environmental Services. It's wrapping up next door here, and then they'll be moving over to the Robinson property and doing the demo and removing that debris as well. We've got a price of $16,400 and a written quote that's in your packet to remove all of the concrete debris that's on the ground on the west side of the Mizell property. The importance of that is that we plan to move 4 of the 7 storage containers to that location, hook the power up for some temporary time frame anyway until we can empty more of those containers. But we need to have that concrete out of the way. We have other plans for different portions of that. Part of it will be parking associated with the State Attorney's Office that'll start up at Pine and work its way back to the west. And then potentially, if we have to dig a retention pond, once we've realized credits for all of our impervious area, probably that small retention pond, if we have to dig one, would be on the west side of the Mizell property as well, between there and Genealogy. So I would ask for approval of
Right.
the
The demolition.
or acceptance of the quote with Cross Environmental Services in the amount of $16,400.
Are there any questions of Mr. Harris regarding what he's asking for a motion for approval for?
The only question I have, do we have to get anything as far as documented that what is there now for water management to give us the credits?
We have that survey.
Okay.
We're surveying everything and with all the dimensions. so that we do get credit for everything that's currently impervious.
That's all
In
I
fact,
have.
we did that with Nettie Basin as well, because I plan to utilize that as well as, pre-existing
Well,
impervious.
just about the whole Mizell property, we should get
Right,
some sort of credit for, I was thinking.
right.
Any further questions, Mr. Harris?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Commissioner Gamble. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Wainwright. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, moving on to additional agenda items. I don't have any this evening, unless anybody else has anything. We'll move on to public concerns and comments. I have no comments cards this evening requesting for that. We'll move on to administrators' comments and information. You have anything?
A couple of brief comments. One, we're submitting now the application for the Rural Infrastructure Fund grant that we're hoping to apply towards the relocation of the railroad crossing associated with the catalyst site. We continue to forge ahead with our application for CDBG funding for building that rail spur. I met with Jordan Green and a couple other gentlemen with DOT the other day and talked again about any additional assistance that we might be able to get from DOT to make up any balance of funding that we may need for the railroad. But something interesting happened yesterday or the day before. I heard Mrs. Vickers squeal and fall on the floor. I went in there and she was somewhat faint. We had received an email from CSX. You know, they came through and disturbed everyone's lives for, a week or so, working on all these railroad crossings through town. And Mrs. Vickers had opened an email from CSX suggesting that they want us to pay them $104,000 for those repairs. So, we got the smelling salts and got her back in her chair, and she's continuing to try to revive herself. But in any event, I made a phone call and spoke to the gentleman that sent the email and said everything that you would say. And offered every challenge that you would offer, I offered as well. In any event, the conversation hasn't been finalized yet. And I just wanted to inform you of that because I'll continue to proceed to try to reconcile that matter that was never brought to our attention at all until just a couple of days ago. So I'll keep you informed. My assumption is that we really don't have a desire to pay for the repairs of those crossings. Moreover, it's my opinion that, like most businesses, that they should have a business model that provides for them to collect some fee for depreciation or maintenance and repair of their rail that they can collect from the businesses that they service with that. That's the way most businesses would collect that. But in any event, I've never experienced this before, but we're going to have some interesting conversation as we proceed. So I'll keep you apprised of what's going on with
What
that.
I found intriguing was the fact that they're willing to wait till October for us to budget it.
That was mighty,
He did
that was
tell me
mighty
that.
nice
'Cause
of him, wasn't it?
Yeah, I informed him that, we had adopted our budget back in September. And they were willing. They were willing to wait until October again, but my interest is in making it go away.
What are they,
think-
what are they asking for? Why are they want to charge the county and not the city?
Well,
did they
quite frankly, I don't know. Now, we
Might be
pay.
charging them too.
We pay a
Might not.
maintenance fee. We pay a maintenance fee every year. We just pulled up some numbers very quickly, and, we can pay $1,700 to $2,000 a crossing every year in a maintenance fee. When I asked him about that and what they're doing with that money, he responded that they use that to maintain the signals.
That's for the guy to just come out and look at it.
I'm
Yep.
hard pressed to believe that there's $2,000 worth of work on each of those signals each year. And I told him as well, like I said, I told him everything that you would say. Why haven't you been escrowing for this for years and collecting from your customers to pay for the maintenance and upkeep of your crossings? he really couldn't answer that. He agreed that maybe CSX should do that.
Shutting down the
But
tracks, all that down.
in any event, I'll continue to have lots of interesting conversation, and I'll keep all of you apprised of what's going on.
Speechless. Okay. Any further questions? I mean, not much to say about, I mean, what,
What if they're asking Madison to come up with money?
Commissioner Sessions, somebody come and do some work at your house and.
I was gonna say, I'll show up
They
at
just
their
send you-
place and drag their road or something and then give them a bill,
them a bill.
you know, where they wanted it or not.
That's right.
Sounds like American way to me. Anyways, anything else? Anything further?
Let's-
Board members' inquiries, requests, and comments. We'll start Commissioner Wainwright.
Two things, Mr. Chairman. Number one, going back to item 18 was the approval of the perimeter road to go out for bid. I can't bring it all into context, but I think it's appropriate to bring up the point that when I first came on the board nearly 8 years ago, this was an item that was already under discussion, being worked on through the development, our development authority, and at that time, we had a council for progress. Both of those entities are comprised of private individuals within the county that volunteer their time to work on specific projects in our communities, and a lot of effort, and then a lot of partnering up with DOT to get a big project like this underway. I think altogether, I think it's been about 9, maybe 10 years that this thing has been kind of on the drawing board.
Rocking on.
Maybe longer, Mr. Prevet?
About that.
Yeah, so it's quite, it really just doesn't do it justice just to kind of bring it up under consent item. That's been a huge project and a big undertaking, and a lot of volunteer work has went into that for many years. Second thing, not to cry over spilled milk, gentlemen, but just an example of what we see with government. And I hate to bring it up, but I just can't help but say it. We could have got a lot for the state attorney for $140,000, and for an extra $200,000 or $300,000, we're going to get to build it here. And I know that I went ahead and went along with what you all agreed to go ahead and do and make it here, and I'm resolute in that. I like the board to be unified in the efforts that we undertake, especially in projects like this. So I voted along with what we were doing because we're already that far into it. But we always need to be cognizant of looking out and understanding what the total cost would be as the unexpecteds that come along with it. But anyway, I know it's going to end up being nice. The city's really happy that we kept it here, and maybe they'll help us with Perimeter Road like they thought like they would. Anyway, I'll leave it at that.
Commissioner Gamble.
The only thing I had is, I think I have my date right. If I'm wrong, y'all can correct me, but I got the ribbon cutting for the fair, I believe it's Friday.
Friday.
And just reminding everybody of that.
Do you remember the time, by the way?
I do
6
not.
o'clock.
6 o'clock.
6 p.m. Friday.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
That's it.
Commissioner Fleming.
I don't have anything, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Sessions.
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm just going to piggyback on what Commissioner Wainwright said. The reason you have to pay more for these things is because we decided to build it there. And that's the long and short of it. So, other than that, I appreciate everybody's comments and the meeting today. I hope that you've run efficiently and gotten a lot done in a little bit of time, and appreciate all that. So all I need is a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Join.
Motion made by Commissioner Wainwright, seconded by Commissioner Fleming. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
See you next time.
Yeah.